So we have some. This is a serious issue we're talking about. Well, I think it's kind of. I wouldn't say it's controversial because it is something that happens and that in the world and different lakes and people use and people don't use and decide for and against. And recently, City Council went to vote on whether or not we should fluoridate our water again. Now, fluoridation was removed in 2013. Now, the reasons, unbeknownst to me, I'm not sure exactly all the reasoning. It was probably because of the, evidence of health risk and people not wanting it at that point. But now it's gone to council again, and it's been voted for. 8 councillors to 3 voted for reintroducing it into the system. So there are plans to reintroduce it into the system. And that's an $850,000 plan because apparently the equipment is going to cost that. So there's no timelines as of yet that I've read as to when fluoride will be reintroduced. So I've been reading online a lot, and there seems to be a lot of arguments for and against it, and a lot of arguments even in Windsor. There's been tweets sent out that are kind of vehement against from people who are against it in Windsor, Essex. So I thought, why not have the issue on air in a way that we can talk about both sides and then let you decide. And of course, if you want to call or text in with your opinion or if you have thoughts on it, it's 519-792-2559 or you can text 10800. Now, I'm not the judge and jury here. I'm here to hear both sides and to provide both sides the argument for the listeners. So to start off, I am going to have the side that's for. Now, I have a couple of people from Fluoride Free Windsor in studio. The first is Cheryl Burr, and she's in studio. She's from Fluoride Free. She'll give us her background. And also on the line, I have Dr. Gilles Parent, and he is against fluoride. He's a naturopathic doctor out of Quebec. And Donna Mayne is also on the line with him, and she is against it. Now, after this group, we're going to have on doctors that are for it, and they're out of the United States, but we'll get to that after. But first we're gonna, they're not going to be on the air with you, Donna, or Dr. Gilles, but they will be on the air with Cheryl. So I just wanted to present the issue for Windsor, Essex in a way that it was a little bit more involved and in depth, so people could really understand this issue to a greater extent, because I really didn't, and that's why it piqued my interest. So Cheryl, why don't you start, and Donna, Dr. Parent, you can chime in on whatever arguments they're presenting about the case that supports why it may not be the best thing for our waters in terms of health risks. So from your perspectives, go ahead, Cheryl, if you want to start.
Well, first, thanks so much for inviting me in.
You're welcome.
To speak on this matter. And it's certainly, from the 5-minute presentation time we were limited to for each presenter with City Council, we appreciate being able to explore it further.
You're welcome.
And I invite the other guests to interrupt me at any point in time here. But there's a broad range of reasons why to not fluoridate our water.
And what are they?
Well, first of all, the studies that show the efficacy of fluoride are severely flawed. And that's one of the things I'd like to raise and get into a little bit more. But to be broader, there's serious flaws in the studies that have showed that
they benefit oral health.
That they benefit oral health. There's numerous studies and many recent ones, even since fluoride was removed from our water supply in 2013, that show adverse health risks. And those things need to be explored further. Further study is definitely required. It's being used, fluoride is being used as a form of medication by all sense and practices. It's it would fit under the definition of a drug for Health Canada. Health Canada considers dental decay as a disease. The FDA has explicitly stated when fluoride is being used to prevent dental decay, then it is being used as a medication and a drug. And we have Ontario court cases also confirming that. So then we're getting into the realm of how do you administer stuff in an ethical way, and a one-size-fits-all for everybody. There's, we could explore further why that is such a problem. So
Donna, Dr. Parent, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, she's right on the mark. Sorry, Dr. Gilles. Cheryl's right on the mark. It is unethical because it is untested. It's chemical. That they use to fluoride the water is called hydrofluorosilicic acid, or short form is HFSA. And Health Canada admitted in 2014 it has never been tested for toxicological purposes. It's not. They have no proof of safety or efficacy. And when our health unit and your fluoride lobbyists from America that you'll have on next will claim that it's safe and effective, they can't. There is no study. Period.
So what is Health Canada's main argument for having it introduced into the water systems as an acceptable way to prevent oral health decline? What is their argument that they push for doing this then?
Gilles, would you like to take that?
I could say Health Canada is not accountable for the fluoride added to the water. Health Canada classified the fluoridation chemical as water treatment chemicals, and water treatment is of provincial jurisdiction. So it washed its hand, saying we promote the fluoridation, but we're not responsible for it.
The municipalities decide on their own whether or not they want it by vote.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, because they decide, and we have asked the question to the Quebec Ombudsman, and he said cities are entirely responsible for dispensing the fluoridation chemical to the patient. Well, it's not, I could say, approved by Health Canada for the purpose of treating dental decay. In fact, there's two types of fluoride. There's the industrial fluoride that they use for cities, and there's pharmaceutical fluoride that they could use in toothpaste and supplements or things like that. So the fluoride used for cities are of industrial quality. It's not approved by Health Canada because it's not produced in sanitary condition. It's not produced in GMP production. That means in site which everything is clean and properly prepared for human consumption. So it is unfit for human consumption because it's not prepared in sanitary condition, and it's also contaminated with heavy metals like lead, mercury, arsenic, and it has not been proven safe because water treatment chemicals have to be proven safe by toxicology studies. And Health Canada have not done the toxicology studies and refer to the National Sanitation Foundation for doing the toxicology studies, but Sanitation Foundation says we're not responsible for that because the government asked us to supply the chemical. So no one have done the test and no one is accountable. The provincial minister, the Ministry of Health in Ontario and Quebec are not responsible for the fluoridation chemicals.
And you make an analogy. You say that the fluoride that they're introducing into the water is, if you think of it this way, like the industrial salt we throw on the roads.
Exactly. It's of industrial quality. It's not clean. It's not prepared in sanitary condition. Every food...
But isn't it cleaned through the water system after it's introduced into the water? Isn't that part of the process that's going to cost $850,000?
Yeah, the fluoridation chemicals are not there to treat the water to make it safe and palatable. It is added just for treating the patient that are going to be drinking the water. So by definition, it's a drug, but it's not approved by Health Canada as a drug. It's not approved by Health Canada as a source of a nutrient for food fortification, like the iodine added to salt. So if it's industrial quality, it's unethical and illegal to add that product to the water because it does not satisfy the Food and Drug Act.
Something else that I'd like to add to that too,
Cheryl, go ahead.
Is there is a perception, a false perception out there that once this chemical mix is added to the water, that through the dissolution process, it's going to be just transformed fully, 100% into the ions, the fluoride ions, and so we don't need to worry so much as how it came to us, but and into the water supply, but what form is it coming out of the tap? But that's not true. There's been studies that show that you may only be getting a 66% proper dissolution of that, and there's also the issues of lead and arsenic within this chemical thing, and that those chemical levels vary from batch to batch, and there is no safe level of lead and no safe level of arsenic, and those two chemicals like fluoride,
lead lowers IQ.
Well, yeah.
And
bioaccumulate in your system, and if somebody's got problems with their kidneys, they're less able to flush it out. So people with various different compromised pre-existing health issues are affected even greater. So when we talk about social justice and the least among us, we need to keep that into consideration. So when you have people that speak just like they did at City Council, oh, we don't need to worry about this toxic chemical and how it came to us, because when it's added to the water, these chemical changes happen, and so by the time it gets to your tap, it's all been diluted. It's just the fluoride.
But there's
ions.
No proof that
There's no proof,
okay.
And it's a recent Michigan study will show that. And so again, what we're saying is the science is not settled at all on this matter, and
which is why
before you force everybody to have it, the science needs to be settled, and we are far away from that.
Okay, we have to take... Sorry, Donna, hold that thought, okay? We're going to take a quick break. I did get a text come through, and I am going to read these texts. These are your opinions, Windsor, Essex. You're allowed to have them. As long as there's no profanity and they're not racy or racist, I'll read them. I have a text saying, fluoride is poison, period. I have refused all fluoride treatments from my dentist for years, and she knows exactly why. Okay, we'll be right back. And we're talking about fluoridation. Council has voted 8-3 that we will fluoridate the water. We'll add fluoride rather to the water once we have the processed on its feet in terms of costs. It's an $850,000 cost to reintroduce fluoride into our water systems. They were removed in 2013. Now, what exactly was the reason for the removal, Cheryl?
Well, Donna, do you want to take that?
Donna, do you want to? Yeah, Donna, what were you going to say? I know you had a thought. Before you talk, sorry. Anyone with their opinion on it, whether it's for or against, we're happy to hear it. There's no wrong answer as long as there's no profanity. I will not read profanity on air, but it's you can text 10-800. Okay, go ahead, Donna.
Well, the recommendation to stop fluoridation in 2013 actually came from NWIN, when they discovered that they had no toxicological studies that were required to permit this chemical in the water. As Dr. Gilles said, they are required tests, and they're not. There's none to be had. So that, combined with our environmental subcommittee from Windsor, who recommended stopping because they realized also that the fluoride levels in the Detroit River exceeded the Species at Risk Act.
Okay.
Something that our health unit claimed was an impossibility, but NWIN confirmed through their raw water testing that it did exceed levels of safety for the life in the river. And the fact that it is unethical to force a product in a chemical. Okay, so this is what is not controversial. What's not controversial is fluoride is more toxic than lead. Lead, there's no safe amounts that you can have in lead. Health Canada does not recommend any safety levels. Arsenic is only slightly more toxic than fluoride. All three are found in every batch of this chemical, this HFSA. So all three are neurodevelopmental.
So you're saying they're all in fluoride?
The chemical product that they use to fluoridate the water contains fluoride and arsenic in every batch, and some batches also lead.
What do you mean some batches?
Every batch is different because they're not produced, as Dr. Gilles said, in sanitary conditions. It is the EPA demands that scrubbers be placed on smokestacks of industries to capture fluoride gases that are poisonous. So what happens is they collect these toxins in scrubbers, and that toxic mixture is what's put into our water. It is not produced in sanitary conditions. It is a hazardous waste product. And if any council member were to take the time to look and ask for an NSF certificate of analysis of the product, which is supposed to come with every batch, it's supposed to have an analysis, they will find arsenic is in every batch. It is not produced under sanitary conditions, as Dr. Gilles said. And we all know that all three of those metals, fluoride included with the lead and arsenic, all three of those elements, are developmental neurotoxins, and they do bioaccumulate in the body. So what's safe for one day for one person, it's like a pack of cigarettes. It's like the same tobacco science, when they were trying to prove that smoking is safe. It's the same idea. It's safe, let's say, if you smoke one cigarette a day. What if you smoke a pack a day? What if you smoke a pack a day for 20 years? That's going to accumulate. That's going to cause harm more in some people than other people.
Okay, I have a question for Dr. Parent. Dr. Parent, how can it be produced in sanitary conditions then? I mean, isn't that...
I could say it's industrial conditions, so there's nothing that is completely clear. It's not manufactured in pharmaceutical product as a pharmaceutical product. So the hygiene is not controlled. There's no site that are producing the fluoridation chemical that are recognized by Health Canada as a site for producing fluoride for the water as a source of a nutrient for food fortification.
But the process by which every community who introduces fluoride into their water system, is it not the same from community to community, or is it regulated differently between?
No, it's the same regulation. They add a certain amount of this chemical, but the chemical they buy is of industrial grade. It would be really 10 times or 20 times more expensive if it was of pharmaceutical grade.
Okay.
And that would be too expensive for cities to buy it. And
so
the
to save
fluoridation
money,
chemical are classified as toxic and as hazardous substance by Environment Canada when it's produced, transported, or stored. When it's used for the cities for the fluoridation, then it becomes a water treatment chemical, but it's just exactly the same substance. And if a city stops using the fluoride and you have to get rid of what's left in the tanks, then it becomes automatically a toxic and hazardous substance. So just to prove they cannot send it in the river, they cannot put it in the air or whatsoever to get rid of it, they have to pay expensive people with masks and everything to get rid of the toxic substance they have in their tank. And that's what they put in our water. It makes no sense.
On the ethics, corrosive.
Yeah, and on the ethics and on the legality level, it creates severe issue. You cannot use a substance which is not prepared for food consumption to treat people against a disease.
Now, let's go back to, I have to go to a break at 10, so keep that number in mind. Mm-hmm. But the argument, though, is that the oral health incidence of oral health decline is on the rise.
Okay, and can I address that, please?
Sure. Donna, go ahead.
Sure. The oral health report for 2018 has absolutely no evidence that lack of fluoride exposure has caused any increase in tooth decay. Absolutely no evidence. If you look at it very carefully, not at just their summarized claims that are very alarmist, but if you look at it very carefully, there is the oral health-related day surgeries has actually declined since we stopped fluoridating. The highest percentage of surgeries was while we were fluoridating. And there's other things. And if you also look at the report, there's no mention when they talk about barriers to good oral health, like immigrant status,
socioeconomic status, etc. Yeah.
And income. There's,
poverty.
Exactly. This city has experienced the greatest decline in income levels than all of the Ontario cities combined.
And that's undeniable. I will agree with you there. It's an undeniable fact that in around 2009, we had a severe decline in the economy. And that's, of course, affects everyone's pocketbooks and health insurance. So that's undeniable.
Right. And the rate of increase in tooth decay occurred prior to stopping fluoridation.
Okay.
The highest rate of decrease.
Okay. We have to go to a news break. When we come back, we are going to continue this conversation. However, I am going to give the side for fluoridation a chance to present their arguments. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
We're talking about fluoridation in our water. City Council voted 8-3 that they would introduce it back into the water systems. It was taken out in 2013. It's an $850,000 process to reintroduce it, and that process will take several months in the coming months to complete, as far as the news says. Now, ultimately, the argument for and against, it's about choice, and it's about what you want to put in your body, what you want on your body when you shower, what you want to consume, what you want to cook with. It really is about people not having all of the facts and not all having all of the science to back up arguments, whether it should be for or against in our water system. So that's really, to me, that was the big question. I didn't know a lot about fluoridation. I was in Toronto for a long time. I came back. I didn't even know that it had been removed from the water system in 2013. Now it's back, and I just thought, this is a great topic to hash out both sides. Now, I have two doctors who are for fluoridation. Dr. Stephen Slott, and he's the founder of the North Carolina Missions of Mercy Portable Free Dental Program that's provided millions of dollars worth of free comprehensive dental care to tens of thousands of the underserved population in North Carolina and 5 other states. He's also the communications officer for the American Fluoridation Society. I also have on the line Dr. Johnny Johnson. He's a pediatric dentist and founding officer of the American Fluoridation Society. He's a president in a science-based information group whose mission is to help communities and its leaders understand the credible science of community water fluoridation. AFS members provide testimony and technical assistance to state and local communities that seek to start community water fluoridation or defend the practice against rollback attempts. Medical and dental health experts across the nation have joined AFS to debunk myths and clarify the evidence behind fluoridation's safety and benefits. AFS members are active and online, and on the ground they share the facts and counter misinformation about fluoride. Good morning, gentlemen. Are you there?
Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. So I don't know if you were just listening to the arguments against it.
6 degrees there?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it really 6 degrees there?
No, it's 2 degrees here. Who's that, Johnny? Johnny Johnson. That's got to be Dr. Johnson.
No, Steve.
Is that Steve? Okay. So guys, have you been listening to the broadcast so far?
Yes.
Okay, so they've presented a few issues here in terms of a lack of sufficient scientific evidence that shows it's safe for drinking, as far as choice, as far as the chemical compounds, as far as how it's treated in the water, the grade, the industrial grade fluoride they use. There's been a few arguments there. Now, you can, if you would like to refute, maybe some of them, go ahead. If you want to maybe start with the fact that the fluoride introduced is industrial grade, what do you have to say about that?
April, if I can just quickly go over.
Who's talking? Sorry. Is this Steve or?
I'm sorry.
Johnny.
Johnny.
Okay, Johnny, go ahead.
Please feel free to call me Johnny.
Okay.
Johnson takes too long,
guys.
And we've got a short time.
No, we have a break in between, but we have till 10:30. So try to condense your thoughts. I also have Cheryl Burr still in studio with us. She may have something to say about, but let's keep this all pleasant. We're trying to present the facts. Okay, so go ahead.
Absolutely. The facts are that water fluoridation that has been occurring over 70 plus years, using primarily the hydrofluorosilicic acid for the last 60 plus years, has had thousands and thousands and thousands of research projects and articles written about it. And around the world, the overwhelming consensus of the evidence continues to support that it is safe and it is effective in reducing cavities, causes no adverse health effects whatsoever. Our leading medical and scientific organizations around the world support it, including Health Canada, the Canadian Pediatric Society, Canadian Dental Association and Medical Associations, our American Academy of Pediatrics, American Dental Association, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC is called for short, our Mayo Clinic, the World Health Organization. That's just to name a few. There is not a single credibly recognized health or scientific organization in the world that opposes fluoridation. Not one. And just to add on to that, this number one chronic disease of childhood and adolescence in Canada and the U.S. and around the world is cavities. Cavities are called decay or caries. There's three different names, which kind of gets confusing. But I'll stick with the word decay.
Okay.
It is a transmissible and it's an infectious disease. This is not something that's just a little hole in the tooth we're talking about. We're talking about something that causes needless pain and suffering. To remove it, to stop it, it's avoidable cavities, decreased quality of life, hard to focus in school for kids, missed work, huge cavities, teeth taken out, and people even die from abscessed teeth. And that happens every year.
Infection.
Water fluoridation, it's not a magic tool. I mean, it reduces by, for adults and children, an average of 25% of cavities in their lifetime. It is not a magic bullet. It's just one more tool in our toolbox against fighting cavities.
Cheryl, do you have anything to say to that?
Well, be careful with the wordplay. Yeah, there may not be a dental association that has a policy against fluoride, but there are dentists and experts in the field that are against water fluoridation. In fact, and also these studies that he's talking about, when you take a close look at these studies, you find severe deficiencies in the studies and, in fact, fatal flaws. For instance, if you move the goalposts on how you recognize dental decay before and after adding fluoride to the water, you can rig the statistics. So that has to be considered. Further, in 2014, with Health Canada and the Government of Canada, through Freedom of Information, it shows that they are not relying on a single study that shows the efficacy and safety of the chemical compound that's added to the water supply in Canada to add fluoride to the water. So to say that, there's always been, there's all these studies and nothing has proved an adverse health effect. What constitutes proof? What we have is a continued preponderance of the evidence of a correlation. And so further study and improved studies are required to examine that.
Okay, I have a text that just came in. And It says this: more and more communities are rejecting water fluoridation as they realize the substance has never been tested for safety or humans, or for safety for humans or the environment. It's a way for industry to get rid of their pollution. WUC, what is that? WUC, what Windsor? I'm not sure what that means. The Windsor Utilities Commission, sorry, confirmed in 2012 that the product is not naturally occurring. The rest of Essex County is unfluoridated and their oral health is the same as ours. I do not consent. That's another. I said I would read the text. Now, Johnny, did you want to reply to Cheryl?
Let me respond to that.
Okay, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
All right, let's get rid of the hydrofluorosilicic acid question. That's a complete mischaracterization that is perpetuated by fluoridation of HUDs. Hydrofluorosilicic acid is completely gone by the time water even leaves the treatment plant. Finney et al. In 2006 clearly demonstrated that this compound does not exist in fluoridated water at the tap. It's gone. It's hydrolyzed completely. The only thing that is ingested as a result of fluoridation with this substance are fluoride ions identical to those fluoride ions which already exist in water, and some trace contaminants in amounts that are far below US EPA maximum allowable levels. So the HFA argument of no toxicological studies, et cetera, really are totally irrelevant because there's no need for toxicological studies of a substance which is not ingested.
But that 2006 study has major flaws in it, and that's the point.
No, it doesn't.
It does because it's not. It doesn't reflect the reality of how water fluoridation is occurring. And you're using and the nature of the water that study used, and that's the issue here. Is that both sides of this issue point fingers at the flaws in each other's study, which is actually how science gets done. We have studies.
Okay, wait, one at a time. Steve, I'll let you answer.
All right. So you're saying that a peer-reviewed study by William S. Finney, Aaron Wilson, Ellen Collins, Michael Morris, and Larry Beck in environmental science and technology is flawed. And you can't really say specifically other than just that it's flawed.
Because it used deionized, ultra-pure, nanopure water, devoid of other impurities that we deal with in our tap water, and there's synergistic effects. Therefore, there should be further study. The idea with science is we certainly, on our side, have scientific peer-reviewed studies published in recognized scientific journals. And what science does is people will examine these studies all the time in science and say, I see your point here, but I think that there's a confounding issue that you need to shore up. And then other people will come along and build upon that. And that's fine, right? But the point is that that's why I'm saying the science isn't settled, because we can find flaws about confounding evidence. And the 2006 study doesn't reflect what happens in our water supply when you're using a type of water that doesn't come out of our tap.
Okay, you guys, Steve is okay, and that's, we know that part of with any scientific study, biases are always brought into studies on one end or the other. Now, Steve, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Slott, can you just hold that thought? I'm going to let you reply to that. We're going to take a quick break when we come back. So gather your thoughts. We are talking about fluoridation. And City Council has voted for it, 8-3, to reintroducing into the water system. It's been out of the water system since 2013. We're having a bit of a debate between the for and against parties. I've had a few doctors on both sides and a couple of women from Fluoride Free Windsor. Cheryl Burr is from Fluoride Free Windsor. She's in studio with me right now. On the line is Dr. Johnny Johnson and Dr. Steve Slott, and they are, Cheryl is against and the two doctors are for. I'm getting those mixed up. For is Dr. Johnny Johnson and Dr. Steve Slott. We just got another text in saying Vancouver and Montreal have never been fluoridated, but I think, is that correct? I think that may be wrong. I think actually that might be correct. Okay. And then now those two municipalities. Now they're different from municipality to municipality. That's how it's decided. The council decides whether or not to fluoridate water, as far as Health Canada's regulations go. Now, Steve, you were replying to Cheryl. What did you want to say?
Let me let Johnny go ahead.
This is Johnny.
Johnny, okay, go ahead.
Let me start out. First of all, April, in all fairness, one of us was not able to be on the call with the opposition. So having someone in on this call is taking up a lot of our time in answering questions which the other side, which we had listened to, fairly got to give their total information, and we're not being allowed to do that.
Okay, and you can.
That's something.
Well, you can give it now. You can without interruption.
Okay, I would like to have no interruptions whatsoever while we give our side. Otherwise, we're not able to get to properly speak to
okay,
this.
so say what you'd like to say about this, and without interruption. We won't interrupt.
Thank you. As far as individual research is looked at, there are many factors that go into the studies to follow the scientific methodology. And you have to follow it to get it published in credible, peer-reviewed scientific journals. And that is very difficult to do. Taking that, saying there's thousands of studies, there are groups around the world that will perform systematic reviews, which looks at all of the literature. And they come up with a consensus of what all of the literature has shown.
Okay.
Most recently, Public Health England, Environmental Protection Agency, in 2017, Water Research Foundation, Royal Society of New Zealand, the Royal Society of Chemistry in England, the National Research Council in 2006, which I think is being mentioned as a study in 2006, which Dr. Hardy Lineback, who is vehemently opposed to fluoridation on, he sat on that committee of 12 members that researched or looked at 10 years worth of previous literature on fluoride, and he agreed that there were absolutely zero health effects from fluoride in water at what we call the maximum amount that's allowable in the United States in drinking water of 4 milligrams per liter, 4 parts per million. That is 6 times what Windsor had. There's nothing except severe staining of the teeth at 2 parts per million. That goes away. Under 2 parts per million, you do not get staining of the teeth that's brown or pitted. All you get is a very white, mild white fleck or spot on the teeth that is not noticeable to anyone walking down the street. It is only really visible to us in the dental profession when we dry off the teeth and we look at them under bright light and then take a photo and blow it up. That's when you see it. There is no health effects, no cancer, there is no IQ problems, mental problems, there's no reproductive issues, no thyroid issues. None of those were found at the level by that 2006 Research Council at 4 parts per million. Again, 6 times what Windsor had in the water. So to pull information out and to cherry pick information to suit the needs of what you are trying to accomplish, and that is to rob children and adults of a cavity-fighting mineral that is naturally present in the environment and always has been, 13th most abundant mineral in the Earth's surface. It should be criminal because we were robbing people of cavity-fighting the mineral at a proper amount. At high levels of anything can be bad. Coumarin, blood thinners, keep my parents alive so that they don't throw blood clots and get a heart attack or a stroke. At low levels. At high levels, it is used as a rat poison. Any amount of anything and too much can be a problem. I also heard that one of the others said that fluoride fits in between arsenic and lead.
Right.
Well, in that same group of what fits in between it, you've got caffeine, your morning coffee. You've got ethanol, something that you got in your glass of wine. I believe acetaminophen, I may be incorrect, but I believe Tylenol fits in that level.
Like there are a lot of things that have bad things in it, is what you're saying.
You take too much of anything. If you drink too much of plain water without fluoride, you will die of it. Kids binge on milk, seeing who can drink the most in college or water. and they die of it because they throw their electrolytes out of whack. You can have too much of anything. In the right amounts, it's very, very beneficial.
Yeah, so you're saying the amount, you're saying there's no scientific evidence that shows that there has been any negative health effects to adding it to the water, and that it's helping the oral health of especially those people who don't have dental plans and live in poverty.
Absolutely. And there is another group which was appointed by the equivalent of your parliament in Canada. It was appointed by Congress to independently study, like the National Research Council, independently study community interventions. And this group is called the United States Public Community Preventive Services Task Force. And in 2013, they reaffirmed that water fluoridation is effective based on strong evidence that it reduces cavities in everyone. And they also stated it does not cause severe fluorosis, just like the NRC group in 2006 said. And it also has no adverse health effects at this level. And this is an independent panel that does not answer to anyone. So they are free to do their research as they see fit. They have to. They report it just as it is. I mean, those are the panels that you look at. They're doing systematic reviews, the highest level of reviews that can be done, and they are saying it's incorrect. All of the opposition's claims have been shown to be incorrect. The American Dental Association puts out a journal, a paperback that is called American Dental Association Fluoridation Facts, and if you would take a look at that, it addresses every single claim that you're hearing this morning, that it's not. It just puts it in a proper perspective, and it gives us scientific literature and research. Now, speaking about fluoride,
Steve, I'm going to let you continue. We have to just take a quick break for news, and I will let you guys finish presenting your side so we get a balanced and fair conversation here. Okay, in just a minute. Okay, we are back, and we have to wrap up this conversation. This is something we could talk about for hours and hours, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Slott. There's so many sides to the argument, and I'm trying to be balanced here. That's why I'm not going to let any more interruption to your argument. It's just Cheryl was in studio, so she was still kind of here. The others were on the line, and she ended up being in studio. So, but I wanted to give you that chance to still present what you had to say, and you did. We got a couple more minutes. I think some of the arguments we had, and this is directed towards you, Dr. Johnson, we had someone text in saying, ask you about how safe it is for formula-fed infants. They're saying that it's not. Like, what do you have to say about that? I'm just giving you the opportunity to respond to that text.
Okay, thank you. I did the original research on looking into that back in 1983-5 and published it in a peer-reviewed research journal. And it is absolutely safe. It is to mix with infant formula. It is approved and said to be safe by the CDC and the ADA. Now, if someone is concerned about it, they can use a low fluoride water. The only effect that you might see is that you may have in your permanent teeth for the kids a little few of those flecks called very mild to mild fluorosis. It's a color change in the tooth. It is not noticeable. Does not affect the tooth shape, form, or function, and it does not cause pain. In fact, those little white spots, especially in back teeth, help to prevent cavities because they're very fluoride rich. Mm-hmm. So it's absolutely incorrect that you can use it, absolutely use it too. That would be with powdered and concentrated formulas. Ready-to-feed formulas are just straight to go. You don't have to mix anything with them. So no, that's incorrect. You can use it. You should use it.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, you just cut out there for a second. We could hear you clearly, though. There was no muffling. I couldn't hear. But that last part muffled. If you want to just repeat that last.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I said it's absolutely safe, and my grandchild is drinking fluoridated water mixed with her infant formula. Whether there's anything inappropriate about it or harmful, believe me, I would be the first to be shouting it from the mountaintops. Mm-hmm. All of us would. We're losing business by having less cavities to fill. Why would we be standing up and shouting about the evidence that says this is a effective way to fight this infectious and contagious disease, just like smallpox? It was rid of through a vaccination. And these folks who are against fluoridation are also against vaccination. They have joined forces several years ago. So it is something that is a battle, and it's to rob the greater good of the entire community from public health measures which are effective and safe. You cannot tailor public health measures to the whims of a few. You are harming the masses. The few that don't want it have opportunities to remove it from their water for as cheap as a $50 to $60 filter on, not to plug, but Amazon.com. They can remove it from their water. It is 87% can be taken out, which would be lower than what it already is in your water in Windsor. So absolutely, there's choice. In the U.S. courts, all these claims have been tried, and they have always been found to be not legal. Fluoridation has always been found to be legal in courts of last resort, in every argument that's been done this morning.
And I think that's the challenge too. I mean, even for me here sitting and listening, I don't know what the right answer. I'm not the judge and jury here. I'm just trying to have both sides provide what they have to say. I don't necessarily want a big argument on air.
No.
April, if I can make one final point.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
All right. This is Steve. In listening to the various arguments, it is important when anyone, a fluoridation opponent or proponent, when they are speaking, to substantiate what they're saying. Personal opinions that a study is flawed or that doesn't apply really is meaningless if they don't have the backing to support it.
Right.
So that's what I would leave with everybody, is hold people accountable to give more than simply their personal opinion that something is flawed or that it causes this disorder or such and so on.
Right.
Make them provide the specific citation to the science to support that.
And clearly it's very split. There's people, at City Council, it was voted 8-3 in for it. So, it's an argument that I think that people, they don't have enough information on to form an opinion and make a decision about. I certainly am one of those people. I don't know a lot about it, to be honest with you. That's why I wanted to talk about it today. I didn't want to get into a what's right and what's wrong. I just wanted to show both sides. And I think we have. I think we've used sufficient time to do that.
April, I will tell you that we as a population are electing our officials to make those decisions for us because they are in a position to fall back on experts. And the experts in the world say that it is safe and effective. They protect, the elected officials protect our health, safety, and welfare every single day. Everything. That's their job. That's what we elect them for. We don't elect them to turn things back out to the public to go, okay, make a decision on this. When you say that 11 people are there to make the decision and they throw it back out to 200,000 people in Windsor to make it, how are people expected to understand? That's not how democratic processes work. We are civilized societies, and we make decisions like this every single day, or we are not doing our job. Absolutely not doing that. So when they make those decisions, and it's the same way here in the U.S., it's decided community by community. I understand the frustration that the city council had. I was there, and I was a delegation that spoke at that meeting, and it was absolutely frustrating for them because they were trying to get the information, and that's why I was invited to give the American perspective. And frankly, I'm quite embarrassed to say that all of this originates here in the United States. All this opposition does. And it is absolutely the same as it was when fluoridation began in 1945. In fact, we discovered the fluoride benefits in 1901 quite by accident. It is just, all we have done is replicate nature. We have taken what nature has shown us as preventing cavities at a average at that time of 1 milligram of fluoride per liter of water. And now we find through studies, since everyone has climate control now, we're all drinking the same quantities of water as kids. And fluorosis, the color change in the teeth, only occurs up to age 8 while the teeth are developing under the gums. Kids are drinking the same amount of fluids in north, south, east, and west, no matter how hot or how cold it is, because we have air conditioning and heating controlled environments now. Before, that was not the case. That's why there was a range. Now it's all at the bottom end of that range. It's 0.7 parts per million. That supplies an appropriate amount of fluoride to have reduced cavities by at least 25% and to have those little white mild flecks on the teeth as the only side effect, which is not a side effect. It's actually beneficial, and people like white teeth. In fact, if they ever do notice it, they want to have their teeth whitened. They don't mind those white spots. They love them.
Okay. And point given. Okay, guys, I have to wrap this conversation up. So I want to thank you for coming on and presenting your side and what you have to say about fluoridation. I know it's a sticky issue. I know that it is there's plans to have it reintroduced. It will be reintroduced in Windsor, Essex, as far as I've read, as far as it was passed in council. So after that, we'll see how the debate unfolds after that. But I thank you for calling and taking the time to do this.
Thank you, April.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
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 Okay. So we could continue on. Cheryl wants to say something else, but we've got to quickly, then we've got to go to a quick break, and I've got to wrap this up.
Very quick. We do have from the Government of Canada that the Government of Canada is not in possession of a single study that the chemical that they're adding to the water is safe to our water supply and to our health. So to say that there's all these studies to show it's safe, the Government of Canada does not have a single one. Further, that 2006 study shows that even at the optimal levels, that the amount that's in there will affect people with hypothyroidism, which is such as I have, that it shows that. So it's ingenuous to say that only at like a very high extent. No, at the optimal level that they are proposing, everybody who has compromised thyroids will be affected.
Okay. We've got to wrap this conversation up. We're going to a quick break.